Hey everybody, welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. I'm your host, Charlie Behrens, and here is today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Cripescast. I am joined by Colleen Maraca, the EP of the Cripescast, here in the Cripescast studio.
Hello.
And before we jump into things, we started off last week's episode like this. I want to start off this week's episode. What is going on in the Middle East right now is incredibly tragic, to say the absolute least. A lot of people out there kind of struggling with how to help in any sort of way. And I want to say that Doctors Without Borders is an organization that we've been donating to here, and in the live shows during the auction portion of the show, we've raised money for them as well. You can also raise money for them by following their Instagram at Doctors Without Borders, or going to doctorswithoutborders.org. They are currently doing everything they can to get much needed food, water, and medical supplies into Gaza. What's going on in Gaza right now is just one of the greatest humanitarian crises that I think we've seen in a while. There's a lot of kids there, a lot of innocent civilians, people who need all of our support. So whatever you can do, check them out, doctorswithoutborders.org. Follow them at Doctors Without Borders, and donate whatever you can. And with that, we will get to the rest of today's episode. Today on the Cripescast, my guests are Alex Beld and Francisco Sayu. Alex is the communications director for Renew Wisconsin, and Francisco is the emerging technology director. And Renew Wisconsin, it's a nonprofit org, very cool organization dedicated to building a stronger, healthier, and more vibrant Wisconsin through the advancement of renewable energy. Mm-hmm. We are talking about everything from solar panels to buses, bioenergy, geothermal, hydropower, wind energy. It's just kind of a cool way to sort of see what Wisconsin is doing to, push as much bipartisan legislation. And I think the thing with renewables, it is very bipartisan. There's a lot of money in renewables. It's a good thing to do for the environment. It's kind of a win-win for everyone, but it's just sort of figuring out what are the best ways to do it and what are the most effective ways. And that's kind of where this conversation is going. Mm-hmm. And Wisconsin's also kind of like a microcosm, for the rest of the nation. So if you're not from Wisconsin, this conversation will still show you what is possible here, what could be more possible in your state. Maybe you're in a state that has more sun, maybe you're in a state that does not have sun. Some of these things will apply, some of them won't, but it gives you sort of like a structure to say, how is my state doing what Wisconsin is currently trying to do?
Right. And it's specifically like Midwest states too. They talk about how like other states bordering us are already doing, the main thing they came to talk about is like a electric school bus, and like how states, I think it's Michigan and Iowa, are already doing that. So it's like, if you're in the Midwest, it'll hit home for you. If not, like Charlie said, there's some things that will, some things that won't.
Yeah. So, we'll get to that conversation in a second. Before we do, Colleen, what do we have cooking here in Cripes Inc? We got anything going on?
We do. We are announcing more and more tour dates, which is exciting. So this are coming up in December. We got your New York City show, December 10th. So go check out Charlie and the Big Apple. And then we also just announced some shows in January in North Dakota. He's doing Fargo, Grand Forks, and Bismarck.
Miles is coming to the Fargo one, by the way.
Oh, nice. Is he going to do some time?
He'll probably get up on stage. He'll probably say something, rally the crowd, this, that, and the other thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and there's tons more. We just announced Madison date. There's a lot coming up in the spring. So if you haven't seen Charlie yet this year, don't worry. Go to cripescast.com/tour and you'll be able to see where you can see Charlie live. Yeah,
you guys. So come check out the shows. We had a great one last weekend in Rochester. And coming up, we got Manitowoc, which is, where it all started. Aww. The Manitowoc Minute.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
That's going to be my Halloween costume. I'm going to be the Manitowoc Minute guy.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, okay. You got me excited there.
I can just go down into the basement and take any of the duck jackets, and it could be an easy one for sure. You should do that for Halloween.
Maybe.
Do you know what your Halloween costume is going to be for my party yet?
No, I was honestly just going to go to the wardrobe wardrobe thing and just pull something out.
You could do the doctor one.
Do the doctor one?
We got the surgeon.
Wait, when's your Halloween party?
Saturday.
Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
You gonna be there? Your invite said to RSVP by Wednesday, so you have a day.
Okay. All right. What kind of a themed Halloween party are we gonna do?
Do I want to give it away? No, I'm not gonna.
I can't honestly believe you even have like a theme that you think you could give away. Do you know, like, if I were throwing a Halloween party, like, it would be like there would be no planning taking place at all. I would be out 2 hours before the party getting booze, and that would be it. There would be no chips. Absolutely no decorations. Are you kidding me?
I got 700 spiders delivered to my apartment yesterday.
Look, those little plastic spiders?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with them things when you're done?
Everywhere. And then I'll use it for next year's Halloween party.
Oh, my God.
Halloween is a big deal for me. It's called Halloween. So.
Is this a difference? Is this just a you thing? And I'm not going to be...
Is it a guy versus girl? No, I really think...
Is it a guy versus girl thing? Do girls just plan more of these parties? Do fellas not?
I mean, I've been to a few... Last year, I went to a Halloween party with my guy friends, and they did a little bit of decoration, but not really, like spider webs. And they got booze, but they didn't have any snacks.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm on board with that. You know, that if I were to throw a party, that's how I would do it. But I appreciate...
Did you like my invite? Did you even look at it?
I kind of glanced at it.
Do you want to look at it?
I more so read the text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it though. And
I'll look at the invite.
Do you want me to show you it right now?
Yeah, show me the invite. Halloween at the chocolate factory. Oh, that's fun. Oh, so you're going as Willy Wonka.
Yeah, do you see my face in each of the Wonkas?
Oh, wow. You did face swap. Did you use AI for that?
No, I did Photoshop.
Oh, this looks really good. You've got a golden ticket. Oh, that's awesome. Should I tell the audience what your address is?
Yeah, go for it.
And I'll show up.
But yeah, so I'm super excited for that. My girlfriends are already like texting me messages about like what food they're going to bring.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I think that is a difference
fun.
Between like, we could do a sketch about that.
Yeah, that is fun. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that. I also don't know if it's a guys versus girls thing or just a lazy person versus, you know, because like Josh Burstein, who's been on the Cripescast before.
Yeah, he's a planner.
He's a planner. And he would throw a pretty wild party with full of decorations.
It'd be like two types of party hosts.
Yeah, it's just kind of like detail-oriented people and people who have fun planning things. And then people who are always so in this moment that they never think about the next
I'm going to be
moment.
like miserable hosting. Like hosting isn't fun.
Really?
I'm going to be like, oh, you need a coaster for that? Oh, you need toilet paper? You know what I mean? Like I'm in host mode. I'm not even, you can come. I won't even know that you're there.
You know what? I think I maybe said this on an episode when I was doing the fish fry up north. You get like that adrenaline that like, especially if you're making food for people. I think it's when you're making food for people.
Yeah.
Like the timing and the this and the that, you get like a shot of adrenaline doing it. And then you also have to pretend like you're having a good time. Because there's nothing worse than like when the host of a party is like so frustrated of just trying to get all the food ready, it kills the mood. Like,
Good to know. Okay, so I won't do that.
No, you have to pretend like you're having a great time.
Okay.
So then now that what you don't want is everyone to say, "Oh, can I help you with anything?" Or feeling bad about being there. You know, it's a tough thing to host. My main thing.
That's
why I never do it.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm also lazy.
Yeah.
Your main thing is what?
My main thing is I have this coffee table that I've gone through the ringer with. I've left so many. I fixed it, but I left so many like it's wood, so I've left rings because of cups, like watermarks.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out what to do with that so that people don't, because I don't want to be like going around being like coaster.
Oh, coaster person.
The coaster police.
I think what you want to do is just put a tablecloth on every table.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Nobody's going to, I mean, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Nobody, I guarantee you if I come to your party, I'm not using a coaster. No,
that's rude. If
I look at the, well, I'm just saying, I'm saying after had we not had this conversation, Kelly. Now that I know that your thing, I'm not gonna. I'll think.
I'm planning.
But look, if it's a table like this, I'm not gonna care.
No, but I have good wood.
Right. If it's something like this where the wood is, and I'm a wood guy, so if I see a nice table, but if someone's using like the I'm going to be like, well, it's basically a coaster as is.
All my stuff in my apartment is real wood. So I think I'm going to just...
You got all real wood stuff?
I think so.
Dang.
Except for maybe my regardless, I'm putting up spider webs and caution tape as like a design over all my things so that people don't touch it.
Okay.
So then I can know if someone messed with my stuff.
Wow. That is... Sounds like it's going to be a lot of work for you.
It's going to be a really good party and you're going to like it. All
right. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. Well, thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
And then also too, it's your last week. This is your final reminder for October. So if you get a purchase of $100 or more of Midwest merch at manitowocminute.com and you add the orange oat beanie to your cart and use code October at checkout, you get that orange beanie free.
Heck yeah.
So,
shall we get to it?
Yeah.
My conversation with Renew Wisconsin. Here it is, ladies and gents. Thank you guys for coming on. Are you both in Madison?
Yeah, we are.
Nice. So why don't we just start, with the straight up elevator pitch, Let's just get it out there for folks who don't know anything about renewable energy. They don't know anything about transportation or energy systems. What's wrong with the system, and what do you guys propose?
We are here representing Renew Wisconsin, and Renew Wisconsin is a nonprofit organization that has been around since 1991, supporting the clean energy transition in the state of Wisconsin. And by clean energy, we mean we live in a system that uses energy to run everything, right? It takes energy to run life. You need energy to power your house. You need energy to power things at work. You need energy to move you around from place to place. A lot of the work Renew has done over the years in the state has focused on the transition to clean electricity, supporting people's access to solar energy, for example. We live in a world where we like to support local initiatives, and it is no different in the energy sector, where if you generate your energy locally, you're not sending money out of your house or out of the state or out of the country. And that's part of the reason we're doing this, right? We want to support initiatives and programs and laws that will allow us to create as much of our electricity, as much of our energy here in the state, so we don't have to send money out of the state. So just to put some numbers around that, I have a background in engineering, so I think in numbers. So the state of Wisconsin does not produce any petroleum products. So every time we burn a gallon of gasoline or diesel fuel or jet fuel, we're sending money out of the state to purchase that fuel somewhere else. That number in Wisconsin right now is somewhere around $12 to $14 billion every year that we send out of the state's economy to purchase those fossil fuels. Our goal is to support programs and to support initiatives that would allow us to power our economy with fuel that we can generate here in the state to keep those dollars in the state to support jobs and to support the economic well-being of the state.
Yeah, so, I mean, that makes a lot of sense right there. Why send money out of the state for a product that we all use? I mean, Wisconsin, though, has a history of that, a very recent history. I mean, they're sending people to Illinois for weed, Michigan for weed. Every state that touches Wisconsin has some weed. But Wisconsin's like, no, we don't want that money, man. We don't want that tax revenue. It's against. I don't know why we don't do it, but we have a pattern of that a little bit. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. I think a lot of that has to do with this is the way we have done things here, right? Mm-hmm. We always done things this way, and there is value for wanting to do things the way and wanting to stay close to the things that you understand. But the world doesn't work like that all the time, and we need to evolve. And in the energy space, we have the technology that has evolved, and we need to catch up with it. So we need to create a framework here in the state. We need to create laws. We need to create programs that will allow citizens in the state to take advantage of technology that had matured enough to provide savings and to improve the quality of life of people here in the state. So we're here to talk about electric school buses. That's a perfect example of a technology that has matured enough that will allow us to fulfill the mission of that thing, which is taking kids to school safely, reliably. We can do that, and we can do that in a vehicle that doesn't poison the kids and that doesn't erode our, doesn't send our money out of the state, because we can power that bus with energy that's generated here.
Okay, so we can power that bus with, but what about I was just listening to something about like the batteries, how big those batteries are on buses. Is it, with mining those, with getting the lithium to mine those and everything like that, that's one of the problematic areas in in not just the from an environmental standpoint with strip mining and everything. Now, let me also say, before I start talking more about this, for those listeners out there who may be skeptical of electric vehicles, drilling for oil is also very damaging to the environment. So any way we get any resources, it's damaging. So it's not like, oh, you're mining for lithium, that means electric vehicles are bad. I think overall it's certainly a huge step in the right direction. But with that, I think, we just want to sort of at least address that. We do have to bring those in from out of state, right? We're not mining lithium or anything in the state of Wisconsin. Is that correct to say?
That is correct. And Alex, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like you said, Charlie, most of the resources that we collect for energy production or to fuel vehicles, mining's involved or drilling's involved. Same with coal. There's mountaintop coal mining, which you just literally blow up the top of a mountain to extract that coal. Mining for lithium and other metals like zinc and things like that, it's not always great for the environment. But unlike coal, there is the possibility of recycling those batteries. So as that technology gets better, we have a pathway out of doing as much mining. Mm-hmm. But I did want to go back to one of the points of something we generally advocate for, which ties in well with electric buses, is part of the reason why we advocate so heavily for renewables is just generally improving the quality of life from a health standpoint, right? There's just going to be less smog in the air, less fumes in the air, things like that. So that's a very large part of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like a step in the right direction. And also, Francisco, I apologize. I think I cut you off there when you were talking about how it is sort of in Wisconsin. So like the battery aside, which we don't produce here, but we're trying to produce more of that in the United States as opposed to sending those, getting those resources from China, for instance. So how is it a closed gap system? How do we have that energy? How are we getting that electric energy in Wisconsin? I think that's where you were going next with that.
Yeah, but I do appreciate your concern for the sustainability aspect of the transition. I think that it's something that we don't want to overlook, the fact that there are some concerns with our supply chain and there are some concerns with batteries. Now, I love the fact that you brought the other side into focus too. It's not like, oil extraction is not a benign process. And we've seen a lot of environmental issues from that. So it's like we're dealing with a situation that we're dealing with an imperfect system. And the thing that I like about the transition, the clean energy transition, is the fact that we're still doing a lot of the research, we're still learning a lot, and we're committed to doing things the right way. That doesn't mean that we're doing everything perfect today, but we definitely want to do things better. So in terms of, battery chemistry, batteries are a relatively nascent market because there hasn't been a huge demand for the kind of batteries that we need today. And I can almost guarantee you that 10 years from now, the battery supply is going to be much, much better than it is today because that market is evolving in that way. And we're being mindful of doing things in a way that is responsible. So I don't want us to get too caught up on the, what are what's going on with batteries today, because we're going to see things like battery recycling, which is a business that's going to boom because there is a huge economic opportunity there, and businesses are going to take advantage of that opportunity. Nobody's going to throw those raw materials away because there is still a lot of value in those materials. So we're going to see those materials coming back again to the supply chain. So I wanted to kind of wrap up the issue of batteries because it's a huge concern in the industry, and one that I don't want to ignore. I know people have questions, and we will get questions for these about this for a long time, and we're happy to try to answer those questions to the best of our knowledge. But the truth is, this is a very new industry. We're still learning a lot. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to get better. So, we just need to keep an open mind about that. Now, back to the point of the big picture of the energy transition. It's like, basically, we have created a system in which we depend on fossil fuels that have very low efficiency. So we burn a lot of stuff. And so one of the national labs, the Berkeley Livermore National Lab in California, they create these chart every year that shows energy flows in the economy. And like, I love that thing. Like, I have it as a screensaver on my computer because it shows you. It shows
That's
you
your
how
screensaver?
it is. I love that thing. I just look at, it's like, I'm crazy. I know, but the thing is, it shows you how energy flows in the economy, right? So we get X amount of, energy from coal, and we get X amount from natural gas and nuclear and wind and solar. And then it shows you how that energy is used. Like, our coal goes into electricity generation, natural gas, some of it goes into electricity generation, and some of it goes into the industrial sector. And then what you get out of all that energy input is in a small fraction of value. So we put like a whole unit of energy, and we get about 30% of that in the form of value. Because at the end of the day, when you put gasoline in your vehicle, what you want is getting from point A to point B. What gives you value to use how far that gasoline takes you, right? And if you put a value on what you actually get out of that gallon of gasoline, you're only getting about 20% of that. That 80%, it becomes waste that goes out to your, tailpipe. And you don't get anything out of that. We have a system that depends on that. And the solution to it is moving to renewables, which is what we're trying to do here in Wisconsin. Because you put solar panels and all that waste disappear. Because we're not talking about a system that has an efficiency that's dependent on your input, because the sun is shining when it's shining. Like, you have no control over it, and you don't have to pay more when it shines or it doesn't shine. You just get what you get and you use it, but there is not like a loss there. Right. Which is the case of, fossil fuels. So big picture, we're trying to move the state towards that, where we have a system that runs on fuels and, electricity that we can generate here. We don't have to send that money out of the state. And we would like to see that on the building sector. We like to see that in the transportation sector and in the industrial sector as well once we get there.
Okay. So essentially, the goal of your goal is to keep energy money in the state. So how do you do that? I mean, is that through wind, solar, geothermal? Like, what are the ways that we are producing renewable energy in this state? And also, what are the environmental costs of that energy? We're in this GOP political debate time right now, right? And so we're seeing, I think Trump said that the windmills in the ocean are affecting the whales. Now, Trump is, I think, just full of a lot of stories that are not accurate, to put it kindly. But there is always some truth in everything. There are some environmental costs in windmills. There are environmental costs in producing solar panels. There are environmental costs in everything. And by the way, I'm saying this as a guy who has solar panels on his duplex and has an electric car. So like, I'm on the side of trying to do everything we can. But, I'm also reading as much as I can on this stuff. And there, we do have a ways to go at the same time. So I guess the first question is, what renewables are we producing here? And the second question is, what's the environmental cost of those?
For the most part, we're just running the gamut on all of them. We even have near our office over in Fitchburg, there's a school that's running off of quite a few of these. but for the most part, they're utilizing solar power and geothermal.
Okay.
But they're, I believe, is it the first in the state or the country that's net zero, Francisco?
In the state.
In the state. So we have a net zero school already operating in Fitchburg, and throughout the state, we're using, solar, hydroelectric, wind, geothermal, biogas, which that has some issues with, obviously producing some carbon when you burn it. But we're really using pretty much everything. But there are some issues with solar panels. It's the production, recycling, things like that. But there's also benefits. Farmers are able to rest their soil during the period of use that the solar panels are over that land. So when that project is complete in 30 or 50 years and the panels move or new panels get put up somewhere else, that soil is going to be more fertile.
Let's pause right there on that one. So for farmers, we got a lot of farmers that listen to this podcast, and I've heard this mentioned before. Basically, solar, there's a project where basically who will put solar panels on the land? Is that something the farmers do? Is that something the energy companies offer? What is the process there?
Yeah, so typically it's a utility working with a developer. I think this year, about 1.2 gigawatts, something like that, have been approved to go on mostly farmland or rural land. Typically, once the project is complete in terms of construction, utility will own that and lease the land from the farmer. So once the project is done and the lease ends, the land goes back to the farmer. In some cases, the utilities or the developer will buy the land, but typically it's a case where the land's going to go back to the farmer or the family that owns the land. And in other cases, we're still seeing livestock are able to graze between the panels, and food is sometimes grown between the panels still. So the land still gets used in some cases even.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. So we got that's where our solar panels are coming in. Geothermal, could you explain exactly what that is for those who don't know and where it's happening?
Pick me.
Yeah. Go for it, Francisco. Yeah.
You said geothermal, and I got excited because so I have a background in engineering, and most of my professional career has been working in energy efficiency for buildings and new construction. And geothermal is a fantastic technology. And I truly believe that if you're building a new building in Wisconsin, geothermal is probably the most effective, the most efficient system that you can go for, you can install. And we have a lot of schools in Wisconsin, new schools in Wisconsin that have geothermal systems. And I worked on some of these projects, and I absolutely love these projects. Sun Prairie has 2 elementary schools that are geothermal buildings. Verona has a new high school that are geothermal buildings. We're starting to see hospitals. We're seeing hotels that are geothermal buildings. So geothermal in Wisconsin. Oh, before that, we probably have the largest geothermal installation in the country here in Wisconsin over at the Epic campus. A lot of those buildings have geothermal heat pumps for their heating and cooling. So what I'm trying to say in a very long way is geothermal systems are pretty amazing. And if building owners and design teams are actually thinking about what's the best option we have to make a building more efficient and sustainable, it is geothermal. The way it works, so there is 2 types of geothermal energy. There is geothermal with the big G and geothermal with the little g. Geothermal with the big G is when you have enough heat on the ground that you can pump that water, usually water, that's very hot, and use it to run a turbine and generate electricity. And we have actually countries that rely on that heavily. We have some of that in the Southwest in the US, but the geothermal energy resource in the US is somewhat limited to some geographic areas because, you need enough heat that you can actually run a turbine with that.
And just for our audience, and honestly myself, there are some places in Wisconsin where the water underneath the bedrock is hot?
Nope. That is geothermal with a big G, and that usually happens. That's usually available in the Southwest of the U.S.
Got it.
Here
Okay.
in Wisconsin, we don't have that.
Got it.
We don't have geothermal with the big G. We only have geothermal with the little g. And what that means is basically the temperature underground is pretty much constant year round.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you have a building, you have a home or a factory or a hospital, you have to cool it in the summer and you have to heat it in the winter. And you're fighting against the temperature outside of that building to try to stay within your comfortable range. So let's say you want to keep your house at 70 degrees year round, but you also want to bring some outdoor air and you have to compensate for that heat loss that's going through your windows on your walls. So you have to take air from somewhere, whether it's your side, the side of, inside of the house or outside. And then you want to condition it, bring it back to whatever you want it, 65, 70 degrees, and then make your house comfortable. In the winter, you're going from, if you're taking air from the outside, you're going from, let's say, 0 degrees outside, you're heating that air to 70 degrees and delivering it to your bedroom so you can be nice and comfortable. In the summer, let's say it's 90 degrees outside, you're taking 90-degree air from outside and you're cooling it down to, let's say, 70 and you're delivering to your room. So you have that delta, right? That temperature difference between the air that you're picking up, because you have to bring some outdoor air anyway, just so you're not breathing the same air all the time. You're picking up, also your house loses air, like buildings lose air. So you have to bring some air. You have to fight that difference. If you're using the temperature of the water underground, that difference becomes a lot smaller, because now you're going from 65 degrees or 60 degrees underground or 55 degrees underground to 65 or to 70. That's what you want inside your house. So what geothermal systems, what the geothermals with the little g do, is they take the heat that is already in the medium and they use that to provide the heat that you want for the space that you're conditioning. So one way to think about it is geothermal systems are basically heat pump systems. And a heat pump is a thing, it's a piece of equipment that takes heat from one space and pump it into another space.
Sure.
So it's just like a water pump, but this one is a heat pump. And we all have one in our house. It's called the refrigerator. So if you own a refrigerator that's like 10 years old or newer, it's a heat pump. And basically what it does is when you put something in the fridge and it's kind of hot, the fridge takes that heat out of that, your hot soup, takes it and pump it outside of the refrigerator. That's why if you walk behind the refrigerator, you kind of feel that heat, because it's taking whatever is inside of it is hot, it's pumping that heat out. A heat pump for your house does the same thing. The difference with a geothermal heat pump is that it is taking heat from the ground and it's pumping it into your house. So it's using 55-degree water to get heat to bring it into your house, rather than using 20-degree air to take up heat and put it inside your house. So,
I see.
It's complicated. It's a complicated concept, but basically it's like, you have to think about, you have your heat source and your heat sink. You're going to pick up heat from one place and you're going to dump it somewhere else, right? Geothermal heat pumps have a better source because they are always sourcing from the same spot at the same temperature. Your air source heat pump is having to adjust to whatever the temperature is outside to find that heat. So that's what gives it that huge advantage. So again, best system you can install in a new building. We're seeing it coming up a lot, and there is a reason for that. So, but like Alex said, we support everything. We support solar, we support wind, we support geothermal, we support biofuels, we support electric vehicles, because that aligns with our overall strategy, which is we need to electrify things. We need to run as much as we can on electricity so we can eventually run it on renewable electricity. Because if you got, I have a gas furnace at home that I hope I can, transition to a heat pumps one day, but I won't be able to run my gas furnace on a local or locally generated fuel probably ever, because I don't know when we're going to be able to generate, natural gas. I mean, we do have renewable gas from the landfill, but, I'm not connected to that. So I'm always going to be relying on imported fuel to run my furnace at home. If I had a heat pump that run on electricity and I put solar on my roof, I can run my furnace or my heat pump with fuel that I'm generating here. And that's kind of that's the goal. That's what we're going for.
Folks, please excuse the interruption, but I just want to give a shout out to Jolly Good Soda. They are the sponsor of the Cripescast. Make sure you're ready for all seasons of life with Jolly Good Soda. Just like the leaves, Jolly Good Soda has gorgeous colors of all the fall leaves they do. They've got the yellow, they got the purple, they got the red, they got the orange. You look at a Jolly Good, you look at a fall landscape, I dare you to tell me the difference.
That's how you know they're a good Midwest brand.
That's how you know, yeah, their colors come from the changing.
And then they got the winter colors where it's like grayish.
It's just gray. Yep, the diet.
And memories of a happier time.
Memories of a happier time. Yeah, I like that. Are these the diet ones or are these
they
regular?
Are.
Oh yeah, all the diet ones are very wintry.
I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, check them out, jollygoodsoda.com, or you can find them in all grocery stores. Check out Jolly Good Soda, folks. And folks, Fleet Farm, holy smokes. Halloween is coming up this week. If you need any last minute decorations, head on over to the Fleet Farm. And then after Halloween, you know, it's almost Christmas right around the corner. Fleet Farm's got a ton of gifts for moms, for dads, for everyone in the family, even for kids. There's a toy section, wouldn't you know it? Check out your local Fleet Farm, or you can order online, fleetfarm.com. And finally, folks, the Manitowoc Minute. Oh my gosh, if you're looking for gifts for the holidays, we got it. We've got this very fun sweater. It's called the Ope Christmas Tree. It looks like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, except
it's a Charlie Brown's Christmas tree.
It's a Charlie Brown's one, except it's sadder than a Charlie Brown one. But you know, hanging on this tree is shotgun shells, fishing lures, bobbers, deer antlers on the top, deer antlers instead of an angel, and a whole lot more. It's very fun, made in the USA. Check it out, manitowocmint.com if you're interested. And we got a bunch of other stuff like oak cribbage boards and show tickets, this, that, and the other thing. Check it out. Also, if you want to see behind the scenes stuff, patreon.com/Charlie Barons. And with that, ladies and gents, let's get back to the Cripescast. Your main initiative here is to sort of, you guys have this focus on these buses, right? Why did you choose the buses as the thing to focus on when there's so many other things to focus? I mean, it's difficult being in this position, right? There's so many things to focus on. You got to focus on one thing. Why did you choose the buses for this initiative?
So we're focused on a lot of things. We have a staff that's been growing quite a bit recently, but I would say one of Francisco's main focuses is buses right now. And that's mostly because of funding that's recently been made available through the bipartisan infrastructure law. Over 5 years, starting last year, there's $5 billion available to help school districts make this transition. So during this time period, we're doing everything we can to make sure that Wisconsin is applying for the rebates that are available so they can take advantage of this opportunity.
That is exactly right. I think I kind of pointed to these in my last comment, but electric vehicles align well with our overall strategy, because unless we electrify these vehicles, we won't be able to run our transportation with local renewable fuel. So we have to make sure that these vehicles run on electricity. First, it's better for people because you eliminate the emissions. Mm-hmm. Second, we can use electricity that can be locally generated. And electric school buses, I believe, provide one of the best opportunities we have to bring everyone into the electrification movement, because, I love electric vehicles. I own an electric car, but they're somewhat expensive still. So sometimes when we talk about electric vehicles, we say, these are for people who have the money. And there is some truth in that argument. I think a lot of people rely on the school bus to send their kids home. I have 2 kids in the Madison School District, and my kids, one of my kids takes the bus home, take the bus to school. I know a lot of families that rely on the buses to send their kids to school. And, we're familiar with the school bus because it runs through our neighborhoods. We see the school bus, right? So now that the federal government is providing this funding for this program, as Alex said, we find that it is one of the best opportunities that we have to bring the benefits of transportation electrifications to all communities in the state. And this program is it's almost targeted to rural and low-income communities because these communities have priorities. So, rural school districts, tribal school districts, and low-income school districts have better incentives. They have more money available, and they're prioritized. So we want to make sure that those communities have access to these funding. So we're helping promote the program, bring awareness to the program, do education about electric vehicles and electric buses and their benefits, and helping people actually, fill out the applications and access those funds.
So that's your hope, like for coming on here and talking about this with me, are you hoping to just educate people, or do they have to go through certain steps in order to get their school buses electrified?
We're trying to spread that awareness. Not everyone's really aware that this money is available to them. In terms of the process, there is an application, but there's not a lot of difficult hoops that really need to be jumped through. For the most part, you have to give up one of your diesel buses to get the money for the electric bus. You get to hold on to that diesel bus for, I believe it's a year, right, Francisco?
2 years.
2 years. You get to hold on to that old bus for 2 years if you decide the electric bus isn't working out for you. But then after those 2 years, you have to give up the diesel bus. For us, there's also a sense of urgency in two ways. One, obviously, there's a time limit to this funding. After 5 years, the opportunity is going to pass. So that's kind of the urgency with trying to create that awareness. But obviously, there's not as much of a economic incentive here in terms of, the schools aren't creating a bunch of jobs by getting these new buses. The urgency is really a health situation. So we have, I believe it's about every day, 25 million American children are on a bus. There's just a lot of health issues that arise when you're regularly exposed to diesel fumes. Most studies have indicated that there's just no safe level of exposure to these fumes. And typically those fumes are about 5 times worse on the bus than they are outside of the bus.
Oh, interesting. So this is for your kids' health to not be inhaling those diesel fumes while they go to school every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It causes asthma, headaches. It makes kids tired. So they're just not performing as well in school as they could if they weren't being exposed to these fumes. So if we can get kids onto electric buses that we believe are going to perform just as well for what they need to do, we're just going to protect the health of kids who have small developing lungs.
Got it. So who then, I guess, is not currently enrolled in this program? Is there a school? So you would think MPS, Milwaukee Public Schools, various rural school districts, are they not applying for it currently? Is that why you're trying to get the message out? Are there areas of the state that could really benefit from knowing about this, where you're seeing a shortage in applications for these electric school buses?
So this is an EPA program that has 2 components. One component is a grant where school districts can send their applications, a competitive process where they can compete against other districts and get a number of buses. And the other component is a rebate. So it's a very simple application. It's basically a 2-page application online, and it's a lottery. So as long as they enter their name, they put the name in the hat, and if the computer selects them, they get the bus. So in Wisconsin, we have last year, so in 2022, the EPA released the first round of rebates, and that came out in the summer, and they released the winners in the fall. So in that list, or during that round of funding, there were 198 school districts listed as priority school districts for that program in Wisconsin. So if you were one of those school districts, you could go online, enter your information on that online application, and then just wait. And if the EPA will select you through the lottery process, then you will get your award. So we had about 30% of the school districts in that priority list apply for the program. and we received about 19 awards for the state. Out of those awards, we got 65 electric school buses going into 15 different school districts. And there was a wait list. So some districts apply and they didn't get selected. So they went onto a wait list that the EPA would use in case some of these districts will decide, we won, but we don't want the money, so we're going to give it back. The EPA was going to go back to that wait list and select the next one in the list, right? So like I said, we have 198 school districts in that priority list. About 30% apply. We want to see every single school district in the state in that list apply for this rebate. Because the way I see it is, this is a replacement program where the schools will get the funding to replace diesel buses. And if you think about a school district or a transportation contractor, because this is also available to transportation contractors. So if the school district has a company that provides transportation for them, that transportation contractor can apply and access these funds on behalf of the school. So let's say if the school or the transportation contractor owns a diesel bus that is, throw me a number, like 5 years old, 10 years old, how much is that bus worth? So how much is a school bus worth, that a 10-year-old school bus today, diesel bus?
I mean, let me get on Craigslist for a second here. Hang on.
Right.
I don't know. How much is a 10-year-old school bus?
Let's be generous. Let's say it's $30,000, right?
That's it?
Well, let's say it's $50,000.
$50,000.
That's being generous.
Okay,
yeah, that's very super generous, right?
Okay.
And here it is EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, saying, how would you like to trade that bus for a $375,000 bus?
Yeah.
We will give you 2 years where you have both. Like you get to keep your trade-in for 2 years until you figure out how to make this new electric bus work. And then at the end of those 2 years, you have to either sell that bus, or you have to donate it, or you have to scrap it, right? So the way I see it is, this is a pretty low risk situation for a school district where they get 2 years to try out that new electric bus. And if it doesn't really work for them, well, that's a conversation they gotta have with EPA later, because if an electric school bus doesn't work for a district, we have work to do on the system. We have to figure out why it's not working, because it is working for a lot of districts. We have had electric buses in Michigan for about 3 years now, operating very successfully. We've had them in Minnesota. We have it in Illinois. We had electric school bus operating in Alaska, right? Because that's one of the issues. Like people think well, it is cold in Wisconsin. How are these buses going to work? They work just fine. What happens is that your range decreases in the winter because batteries don't like being cold. And as an EV driver, you probably have experienced this, that in the winter, your range goes down by 30%, maybe.
Yeah.
So same thing happens to electric school buses. That doesn't mean that you cannot use it. It means that you got to have a battery that's big enough to cover your route in the winter and in the summer. And here at Renew, we develop a tool that we can use to simulate routes for a school district. So when we're working with a school district, we can go into the tool, select one specific bus, and they can specify the route. And we can see how the bus will perform for that route. We can model how long it would take to recharge it, how much it's going to cost to recharge it, and then we compare that to a diesel bus, so they can see kind of the savings that they can expect from the transition.
Sure. Okay. And then if that is the case, where it seems like everything is good, what areas in Wisconsin do you think are kind of low on the application process for these buses, perhaps, and would most benefit? That way, if somebody hears, oh, this is my school district or my area, maybe I can bring this up to those folks. Are there any areas in Wisconsin that you think are under applying for this, for these electric buses, these free buses?
Yeah, good question. So if we look at the map of the applications and the prioritization, it's pretty even across the state. So I'm actually looking at a map that I created here in Google Maps where the districts are, and it's pretty uniform across the state. I mean, a lot of schools in the south part of the state, pretty much everywhere, because it's a lottery. The distribution of awards was also pretty even. Like we're getting buses in Palmyra, which is south of here, Madison, We're getting buses in Minocqua. We're getting buses in Granton. We're getting buses in Wild Rose. So last year, the 15 awards for electric school buses were pretty well distributed. We want to see the same distribution this year when the program is announced again, but we just want to see more of those. So instead of 33% of the prioritized school districts applying, we want to see 100% of the prioritized districts applying, because that's going to give us a bigger chance of getting more buses in the state. So just to put things kind of to see how we're doing nationwide, we were super excited when the awards were announced last year and we got 65 buses in the state. Now, Michigan got 138.
Oh, Michigan, they got the UP and more buses. That's not fair.
Well, we got to beat Michigan, right? And I love Michigan. I have a lot of good friends in Michigan, but we got to beat Michigan somehow, because they're doing great work when it comes to electrification. Part of the reason is because they have a history with school buses, right? They have been running electric school buses for a few years now, so they're comfortable with the technology. We don't have that in Wisconsin. We are happy to connect school districts here in Wisconsin with districts in Michigan who have the experience. So if they want to talk to them, they can give me a call and I can make that connection. But we really need the school districts here to start embracing the technology. I know it's a risk, but it's a risk worth taking.
Sure.
Yeah, and generally, trying to get more to the point of that question, really anywhere in Wisconsin can benefit from these buses. They have the range to handle most routes that kids are on. I think the highest range for one bus company we were doing an event with recently is 155 miles. If you do 155 miles or 120 in the morning, charge in the middle of the day, get back almost all the way up to 100% charge, you got 150 again. I don't think there's many kids out there in Wisconsin that have a 3-hour bus route that they're sitting on that goes beyond 150 miles. So they have the range to operate. One of the hiccups, though, I believe, is having the connection to the utilities to be able to charge. And I think Francisco can detail that a little bit. That's one of our main challenges for certain areas.
Yeah. Well, with an electric vehicle, bus being one of those, you have to think about how you charge your vehicle, right? How you charge these buses. So the EPA provides funding for that. So last year, the rebate was $375,000 per bus, plus $20,000 for the charging station to serve that bus. Now, depending on the situation of the school or the transportation contractor, they might not have enough electrical power to support 2 or 3 EV chargers for buses. So that location, whether it is the bus depot or the bus barn of the school, might need some electrical upgrades. We believe that the best thing you can do to figure that out is, as soon as you apply for the rebate, talk to your utility, because your utility wants to help you with this, right? This is a benefit to the utility, because now you're going to provide new revenue to the utility, because you're going to purchase electricity. You're going to stop sending that money somewhere else to buy diesel fuel, and you're going to send that money straight to the utility down the road that's going to provide you with your fuel, right? Talk to the utility to make sure that you have the service that you need to charge your buses. We saw some issues related to that with the last round of rebates, with the last round of awards, because the program is so easy that some of the school districts apply and then they receive the notification, hey, you got a free bus. And then they went to talk to the utility and say, we're going to need to plug this bus. And the utility said, well, you need to upgrade your service, which is going to cost you a few $1,000s. So the school staff went and talked to the boards or the community and say, hey, we're going to need, let's say, $10,000 to upgrade our service. And then that became a barrier, because the school was not planning on spending additional $10,000. So they were like, we don't want that bus. You told us it was a free bus, and now you're telling us we have to spend $10,000 to get the free bus. That doesn't mean free. And that is true, right? That's why we believe that this conversation needs to start, involve your school board, involve your utility, and bring your community in if you can from the beginning. So when you get that award, it's not a surprise that you are going to have, you might or might not have to make some upgrades to your utility service in order to get that charging station connected.
Well, that's a big question is and it's not just with buses, but as electric cars become more and more, can the US grid handle that? And what are the upgrades happening to the grid? Like, what is going on with the grid to ensure that this electric future is possible?
Yeah. Oh, you bringing up all the big questions, man. Can the electric grid handle the transition to electric transportation? The answer is yes by most of the models that we see out there. So if you look at Wisconsin's kind of projection for electrification of transportation, the DOT projects that we're going to have about 30% EVs by 2050. So we have a long way to go, right? This is not going to happen overnight. Now, if you think about how the electricity market works, it's very variable, right? And it's very predictable. We have low demand when people are sleeping. We have high demand when people are home cooking and they want their air conditioning on. So, you have a demand that is a curve that goes up. And at some point in the middle of the day when it's hot, everyone is using electricity and the utilities are scrambling to bring electricity, to the system so we don't get brownouts or blackouts. And then that goes down and power becomes so cheap that some generators either shut down because they don't have anywhere to send that power, or they just give it for free and say, like, if you want electricity, you can have it because we don't need it right now and it's overwhelming the grid, right? It's a system that's like, it's ups and downs. Like, what I'm trying to say is we have enough of a resource. We just have to figure out how to time it correctly. That's when electric vehicles come into play, because you have the ability to program your EV to charge whenever you want to charge. And when electricity is cheap and generators are trying to give it away, that's when you charge.
Okay. But you said the buses have to charge in the middle of the day, right? Too?
Like not necessarily, no.
Only on that 150, only in those extreme cases where it's going over 150 miles in the morning and then at night, basically, right?
Right. Okay. And we actually don't want any school district really charging during the middle of the day, because they're going to be subjected to demand charges, which is, so the utilities don't like it really when you ask for a lot of power when everybody's asking for a lot of power. That's why they charge you something called a demand charge. And there is a window of time, depending on your utility. Some of them are like Monday to Friday, 1 to 4 p.m. or 1 to 6 p.m., where if you plug in something, they're going to charge you for plugging that thing, not the electricity, but just for plugging it, for the demand that you're putting on the grid. And they're going to charge you for the entire year, even if you could just plug it once. Because what they're thinking is, we can control when you plug that thing, and we have to build the infrastructure to make sure that when you plug it, it works and it doesn't create costs in the system. So we're going to build it so you have it available, but we're going to charge you for it, even if you only use it once. So demand charges are very high. So, some of the Wisconsin utilities, they have a $13 per kilowatt demand charge, meaning if you plug something that is 1 kilowatt just once during the demand period, they're going to charge you $13 every month, even though you only plug it once.
Well, that seems weird.
It's not weird, though, because they have to actually build that infrastructure to serve you. But the utilities have the obligation to serve. That's why they have a monopoly, right? You can't compete with the utility because the utility has a monopoly, but they also have the obligation to provide service when you need it. So they have to build the infrastructure to allow for that. And the way they do it is they build it and then they charge you for it.
Okay.
And they don't want to charge you, they're not going to send you a bill for, you have to put bigger wires because now you have this thing that you want to plug in the middle of the day and it draws a lot of power. So here's a bill for $10,000. They're not going to do that. They just say, okay, we're just going to split this into, 20 years and we're going to charge you, every month we're going to charge you $13 so we get our money back. So that was a long way to say we really don't like districts charging during the day because of those demand charges, if you need to do it, you can go ahead and do it. But for most cases, districts are going to be okay charging overnight.
Okay.
And that's why we have this tool where if the utility give us their route, we can put it through our tool and determine, how many routes they can complete with one charge. And if they have to charge during the day, what will be the ideal time to plug their buses?
Okay. Well, great, guys. Well, hey, listen, this was super informative, and we're almost out of time. So before I direct people to where they can get more information about this, is there anything I forgot to bring up that you think is super important?
I don't think so. I think it was a good conversation. I let Alex say something about this. I think something to keep in mind is during this clean transition, we're not trying to enforce anything on anybody. We're not trying to force people to go one way or another. We just want to have the opportunity to have a conversation about something that we're doing and the options that we have available on the market that might result in, better quality of life for people, probably, better health outcomes. So, if people are doing, whatever, they have a school district that they have to run and they have to get kids to the schools, there is this technology that can allow them to do that in a healthier and more cost-effective way. We just want to have the opportunity to have that conversation to see if the tool might work for them.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'm glad we could have it. Alex, final thoughts?
Yeah. One thing we didn't mention is, especially for those priority school districts that, for the most part, get a free bus out of this, the operating cost of an electric bus is ultimately lower than a diesel bus. So you're getting a free bus. It's a great deal if you need a new bus, and you're going to be spending less money to operate it. So I just wanted to make sure we share that before we close out.
Because there's less work on the engine and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And
because the fuel cost.
And the cost of the fuel. Yes.
Last week we had an event and we had a transportation manager for one of the districts, and they're expecting to save about $60,000 a year by switching 5 of their diesel buses into electric. So they're getting those 5 buses for free, and they're going to be saving $60,000 based on those routes.
Wow. Well, that is significant savings, and it also is healthier for the kids in the bus. So I hope people can check it out. If you guys want to direct people to a website where they can get more information on this, what would that be?
It's just renewwisconsin.org.
Very simple. All right, renewwisconsin.org. Francisco, thank you so much, and Alex, thank you so much. And you guys, while you're riding them buses out there, make sure you watch out for deer. Okay. All right.
Hey,
we'll see you guys.
Nice conversation. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you very much. We'll see you. All right. That is it for this week's episode. Big thanks to Alex and Francisco for coming on the show. If you're interested in nominating your school for an electric bus, just head to epa.gov/clean school bus.
And it'll take you to where you got to go for the program rebate.
Absolutely. So check out their rebates and the whole deal. And of course, you can follow us on our platforms at Cripescast, at Charlie Barons, at Manitowoc Minute. And what is Renew Wisconsin's Instagram? Let me just Wisconsin. Oh yeah, it's Renew _ Wisconsin. Make sure you follow them. I actually wasn't following them, but now I am. So check them out, Renew Wisconsin on Instagram, and you can find more details there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Colleen Maraca, thank you very much for everything you have done here today.
Thank you so much, Charlie, for everything.
I was waiting for that. Shout out to, I'm kidding. Shout out to Hannah Milos for editing this week's episode. Thanks to all of you for listening, and everybody keep her moving and watch for deer. We'll see you next week.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.